Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on this Tuesday night, August the 6th. We have some pretty significant Titans news to talk about this evening. About 4 hours ago, the Tennessee Titans did make it official. A shocking retirement that is going to shake up this offensive line competition. We are going to get into the details of that, what we know right now, what it means moving forward, because this is a critical discussion, a critical position battle that seems to have just been abdicated by the player that was going to be starting in 2024. So we'll get into all of this, like I said, what we know and what it means, the options that you have left to choose from, and we'll wrap things up with a gone viral video at the end of tonight's show, as is the custom. Before you get in here and get things started, of course, well, as you get in here and get things started, it is always appreciated when you share this broadcast around on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch, wherever you're hanging out with us. If you are hanging out on Twitter, please retweet the show. I'll do it with you. It's in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. If you're on Facebook Live, you can share now to public. That's in the bottom left. And if you're on YouTube or on Twitch, please subscribe to the channel and throw a like on the video. And we would be appreciative of you doing that. Keith Clark says on YouTube, speaking of YouTube, didn't think he should have been ahead of Dylan Raiden anyway. Well, not only did Mike Vrabel's coaching staff think that Dylan Raiden was a backup, but so did Bill Callahan, based on the unofficial depth chart that was released yesterday. Keith, perhaps your insights and analysis, and I don't mean this to be, a smart ass or anything like that. And, nor am I'm not taking a shot at you basically, but if Bill Callahan, if multiple NFL coaching staffs, including one of the best offensive line coaches in the history of the sport, tells you that the guy's a backup, I think there's sufficient enough evidence for us to say that this is probably not a starting caliber player, despite what Keith Clark's analysis might be. So as we move on, we will talk about the viability of this, because Sadiq Charles announced his retirement earlier today. We'll go ahead and get into it. Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time from the Zen Sports Studios. I'm your host, Buck Rising. I'm proud, as always, to be presented to you by the wonderful people at Zen Sports. Download the app, bet on all your favorite major sports with the promo code ATOZTN in the Zen Sports app. Terms and conditions do apply. Betting just got better at Zen Sports. Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer and your Ford Bronco headquarters. Go to Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com for more information. TrueMath Fitness in the Gulch. Your first workout is free as a Middle Tennessee resident. No workout ever recycled or repeated. They've got you covered at TrueMathFitness.com. Okay, so the news of the day, an unexpected transaction. The Tennessee Titans announced via the team website that they have placed offensive lineman Sadiq Charles on the team's reserve retired list. Now, he'd missed a number of practices recently. Brian Callahan called it personal reasons, but today he informed the team that he is just straight up walking away from the game. He was scheduled to be the starting right guard, not just on the team's first unofficial depth chart that was released yesterday, but he had been running with the ones this entire time. Worked with the first team early on and continued to do so into training camp after signing as a free agent this offseason. After that depth chart was released, of course, that is when this news came down earlier today at about 3 o'clock, where they had to, submit the transactions for the NFL as you go through like waiver order and releases, retirements, all these different things. Sadiq Charles had to be made official with the league, and now they have officially done so. This is a wrench in a situation that, seemed to be that you should have been cautiously optimistic about. Now, is it going to change? Is it going to change that? Is it going to change so much that Sadiq Charles is retiring right now? Well, if it had to happen, I suppose, then you'd rather it happen early on so you have time ahead of the preseason to work these things out. Alex Blaine Mans asks, where did we get Charles from? He was drafted by Washington, and I want to just refresh myself. He's a fourth-round pick of the Commanders in the 2020 NFL Draft. He's played in 35 games and 18 starts over the course of the past 4 seasons. So he was never a starter in Washington and was drafted by a staff that initially had Bill Callahan on it. So it's a player that Bill Callahan had familiarity with and thought that he could turn him into a starting right guard with additional opportunities here. Was the starter at left guard in Washington last season, where he ended up playing 11 games, 10 starts, had a calf injury that ended up landing him on IR. So that's the situation with Saahdiq Charles, and the Two Rivers Ford take that we will start with on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch is this. What was your reaction to your starting right guard just up and retiring at this point? Let me know in the comment section on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch what your reaction was. We'll talk about it together. While I remind you that the South's most trusted Ford dealer is Two Rivers Ford, your Ford Bronco headquarters is where you go for all of your quality American-made Ford vehicles and award-winning customer service that you know Two Rivers Ford goes above and beyond to offer. If you keep seeing Bronco and Bronco Sports, by the way, all over the road, and you've been wanting to test drive one of those incredible Ford vehicles but just haven't gotten to it yet, Two Rivers Ford invites you to get to know the Ford Bronco. It's an open invite, and you don't need to be in the market for a vehicle. The Two Rivers Ford non-commissioned sales staff, Bronco experts, will take you on a test drive, answer all your questions, and show you all the capabilities of this very cool ride with no strings attached. So get to know the Ford Bronco at Two Rivers Ford, your Ford Bronco headquarters, or online at tworiversford.com. What was your reaction to Saahdiq Charles being placed on the reserve retired list today? That is the question. Excuse me, I got to cough really quick. So Vernon Sanford says, my reaction was an obvious family issue, forced him to retire. Hope all is well with him and his family. I don't know that to be so. So unless Vernon is reporting something that the rest of us are unaware of, there's been no evidence or reporting or information to that effect. All I was told, for what it's worth, on the because I was shocked and sent a couple of texts to people over there with the organization. I was pretty shocked by it, given that he was in the driver's seat to win this job. They expected it after personal days started to after he started to miss time, and the excuse was being given as to personal days. Basically, that it's just he's not his foremost priority is not football right now. It's not the most important thing to him right now. There are other things in his life that that require his attention. Now, could it be a family situation? It's possible. I don't know that to be so. But all I know is that he prefers to step away from the game to focus on things in his life that are more important. It could be family, but I don't know that specifically. So unless there's information that you guys have that I have not yet seen or had come across my phone at this point in time, I would not extrapolate that out beyond what information we have available to us. Don't know that it's health related. Don't know that it's family related. All I know is that he's at the point where he needs to step away from the game, and such is life. That doesn't mean that he can't come back, by the way. Corey Davis is currently in the middle of trying to do that after he was placed on the reserve retired list. Lone Star Titan says the reaction was, it would have been nice if he made this decision earlier, but I hope everything is okay. And yes, let's say that first and foremost, and I appreciate that sentiment from everybody involved. I hope that everything is okay, and I wish Saahdiq Charles the best, because I don't know him personally, didn't get much time to get to know him based on the short amount of time that he was here. But yes, I do hope that is a situation that is not, anything more serious than it's just a life decision that he decided to make right now. Now, to the point that wish he would have made the decision earlier, sure, I get that, because he was a free agent acquisition, right? He was one of the early signings in free agency, and since then, a lot of guards have come off the board, including today. Excuse me. the former Dolphins center, Brandon Williams, who is signed, Connor Williams, who is signing with the Seattle Seahawks, center/guard, just came off the board today to go to Seattle, was visiting with the Ravens, and potentially the Titans could have been in on a player like that had Sadiq Charles made his intentions known earlier. But such is life, and that's where we're at with the situation. Alex says, being completely honest, I had no idea who he was until today. That's not necessarily a bad thing, right? You don't want to know if your right guard is famous. It's probably a bad thing, like your left tackle being famous last year. In the case of Andre Dillard, Mike McCowan said, "Did Big Jeff scare him away?" Well, what I'll tell you is that Tavondre Sweat. I don't know about Jeff, but Tavondre Sweat is on the radio show tomorrow. We're going to have him sit down with us at training camp. I have a variety of different questions for Big T Sweat, but certainly it's not been easy on the interior offensive lineman between Sweat and Jeff. So I don't know how much that had to do with it. Again, maybe there's some fun that could be had with Sweat about it. I don't know how much he'll be willing to engage. We'll find out tomorrow. That'll be after practice concludes tomorrow. So if you're listening to the radio live, it'll be around 10:45, 11 o'clock. Keep an eye out for that. Been through a lot of adversity, says Peter Arce. I think this could be a good opportunity for Dylan. Also, NPF. Nicholas Petit-Frere is the starting right tackle on the depth chart. So, whatever. NPF isn't a guard. He's a tackle. So this has nothing to do with NPF. It is a great opportunity for Dylan Raiden, so we're going to talk about coming up next. But my reaction was shocked to seeing the Sadiq Charles news. And this was the offensive coordinator of the Titans, Nick Holtz. Actually, Bert, I don't see that video in there on Nick Holtz talking about Sadiq Charles. But there was some comments from Nick Holtz, the offensive coordinator of the Titans, talking about Sadiq Charles a couple of weeks ago about the competition around right guard, and Bert will effort that clip for us here in just a second. In fact, here is Nick Holtz speaking about the, at the time, right guard competition earlier in camp.
He's really a power player, right? You looked at him in Washington, and when he came off the ball, you could really see that. For us, he's attractive because if we can get that kind of level of play consistently, he's a starting guard in the NFL, and to get him how we got him and get him as quickly as we did and get him lined up. And now we're just really excited. Randy Jordan had been with him, and he spoke very highly of him, and Bill really enjoyed the tape, and we all did. So it was really, really cool.
So that is Nick Holtz talking about Sadiq Charles earlier in the offseason, and now the situation becomes, Sadiq Charles, who was a free agent signing and slated to be a starter on this team, has left a pretty noticeable void in his absence because, again, Bill Callahan intended to make him a starter, and the Titans' intention was for him to start out as the right guard this season. So that's where he's at this point in time, or that's where they're at this point in time. A to Z Sports Primetime is presented by the folks at the great betting app of Zen Sports. Download the app, plug in the promo code ATOZTN, get up to $100 on your no danger first wager. Terms and conditions do apply. Gambling problem, call the Tennessee Red Line, 1-800-889-9789. Must be 21 plus and in the state of Tennessee to bet at Zen Sports. So like I mentioned, we're gonna have Tavondre Sweat on the radio show tomorrow, and we'll talk about the battles that the interior of the Titans defensive line has had with the interior of the Titans offensive line. In fact, Bert, could you do me another solid if you would be so inclined and drop the podcast link in the chat for people who have not yet subscribed to the podcast and may not be able to catch the radio show live, Spotify or Apple. I'll let you pick your preference there. So if you want to catch the interview, and by the way, so the schedule for right now, the schedule that I have for interviews while we're talking about the radio show before we move on, because this is related to the offensive line, we have 4 training camp broadcasts scheduled left. In those 4 training camp broadcasts, what we have on the docket right now: tomorrow, Tavondre Sweat; on Thursday, J.C. Latham. And when the Seattle Seahawks come to town for joint training camp practices, we will have Titans quarterback Will Levis sit down with us, and we will talk about the progress that he's made, and you guys will get the opportunity to interact with him in the live stream chat that we do of the radio show. So if you haven't subscribed to the radio show podcast, or you don't listen to the radio show now, or you haven't subscribed to 104.5 The Zone on YouTube, where you can watch the radio show live, make sure you do that, because it's not just Sweat, Latham, and Levis on deck. We're going to have great guests. I talked to Mina Kimes about coming on during Seahawks week, because, of course, that is her favorite team. And with joint camp going on, should be a lot of good discourse there. Greg Cosell will also be in town, and we'll have Greg live at the desk with us after both days of practice, which will be excellent insight and analysis to hear from Greg Cosell, the executive producer, the head analyst and executive producer of the NFL Films matchup show on ESPN. So great guest on the horizon. We're going to have a great time. Make sure you subscribe to the show on YouTube, on Spotify, or on Apple Podcasts. And you can look forward to Sweat, Latham, and Levis on the horizon here in the next couple of days. Christian says, I dare you to piss off Big Sweat. Here's the thing. You guys think that I go into these things intentionally trying to bother people, and I just do my thing, and unfortunately, sometimes that bothers people, and most of the time, it's all copacetic. So I don't set out to bother people, but occasionally I have strong opinions, and sometimes that doesn't sit well with everybody. Not the end of the world. Justin Rubini says, in the words of Happy Gilmore, gold jacket, green jacket, who gives a shit? Yes. Indeed. So with there will be no gold jackets or green jackets for this Titans offensive line, as Nashville SC looks like. Oh no, these are highlights from the first half. I've got the Nashville SC game on right now, currently tied at 1 apiece facing the New England Revolution. I thought they just gave up another goal, but these are highlights from halftime. Anyway, so what we have, JQ says, you just come off as an ass. Yeah, the best advice, Jake, that I've ever gotten in my life, and I live this every day, and I love this. I love this mindset. I love this mentality. It was given to me by a very dear friend of mine, one of my former college roommates, a guy named Evan Bitter. He said to me, the sooner you admit you're a douchebag, the easier your life is going to become. And you know what? He's absolutely right, because as soon as I embrace the parts of me that, other people may try and tamp down or shove into a dark corner or something like that, my life got a hell of a lot better and a hell of a lot easier. So yeah, I totally embrace the fact that I'm a douchebag. It's okay. But that I'm a self-aware douchebag, I think is the important quality there, because at least I know, right? You guys know, and I also know. So at least we can move forward with all of that together. So we let's keep things moving here on the primetime program. So the options now. Would you rather have Daniel Brunskill starting at right guard or Dylan Raidens, who have both played and started games at right guard for this team in years past? Let's talk about it together on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch in the comments section, right after I remind you that the primetime program is presented by TrueMath Fitness in the Gulch. Go to TrueMathFitness.com. Your first workout is free. That's right, Free. Free as a Middle Tennessee resident. No workout ever recycled or repeated. All kinds of great different kinds of classes, upper body, lower body, cardio, hybrid strength and conditioning, and all putting you in the best position to accomplish whatever your fitness goals are at whatever level of fitness that you might be at. TrueMathFitness.com for your first workout free as a Middle Tennessee resident. Like I said, they will get you in position to succeed at TrueMathFitness.com. All right, so Brunskill, Raidens. Those are your options. What would you rather have? Angelica James on Facebook Live says option C. She says none of the above. Dylan, Rashid Jenkins says Dylan was killing it at right guard. Excuse me one second. Sorry about this cough tonight. Not sure what's going on there. But Dylan was killing it at right guard. Killing it is a stretch, right? Again, 2 different NFL coaching staffs and 3 different offensive line coaches over the past, this will be year 4 for Dylan Raidens. He's in a contract year, so huge opportunity for him. And to his credit, we'll see how he goes out there and attacks it. But this is now 2 different coaching staffs and 3 different offensive line coaches in 4 years that are telling you that Dylan Raidens is a backup. Backups can become starters. This backup is going to become a starter by default. But he had already lost the starting right guard job to Sadiq Charles. So I'm not doing that to downplay Dylan Raidens, because all Dylan Radins has done is gone out there and worked, to his credit. I think he's genuinely tried to maximize everything that he's capable of. And you can complain about him as a draft pick, or you can say that it's John Robinson's fault for overdrafting him. I would remind you today that Racey McMath and Brady Breeze, two Titans legends, were both drafted over Trey Smith in the 6th round in 2021. Vols, excellent tackle for the Vols, who ended up being the starting right guard of multiple now Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl winning teams. So that haunts you a little bit in your past as well. So there's any number of reasons that you can complain about with why something hasn't gone to plan, or why some player hasn't panned out the way that you thought they were going to pan out. But for Dylan Radins, now is the opportunity that he has at hand, and we'll see how he goes about it. Bert, I also don't see the Dylan Radins clip in here that I texted you. So at your convenience, if you'll let me know when that is available, and I will play that for the audience. No harm, no foul, but just want to make sure that they can hear from Dylan Radins himself. Royal writes, says Radins did some good last year. He did some good last year. And in fact, I do like him as a better option than Brunskill. I value Brunskill for his versatility. Brunskill is not good by the standard definition of good. He's not good at any one position, but that he can play all 5 positions absolutely makes him an asset to this football team. So I would rather Brunskill operate in a reserve role. I would prefer to see Dylan Radins, and I imagine that we will see Dylan Radins starting. Now, I talked to Dylan Radins on Saturday after practice about the opportunity ahead of him and about the competition, and this is what Radins had to say.
I know we want some. It's been cool to see him grow through the process. I mean, he's been grinding all offseason and whatnot, and having him back, having some new energy mixed in the group. Obviously we're in the dog days of camp, and we're just trying to bring each other up, and having some new blood in there was pretty cool to see. Yesterday in the jog through, just the way he communicated and stuff, he looked pretty good. So yeah, it was exciting to have him back.
How you feel like things are going for you, Dylan, in terms of the competition there at right guard? Are you comfortable with how you're progressing?
Yeah, a lot of progression left to go. But I'm learning a lot from Bill, from Coach, from all 3 of the coaches, and just continuing to grow through that and continuing to take what he gives me every day and become a better player every day. So yeah, it's good.
Coaching staff and new ideas, does it almost feel like you're starting over, or do you feel like you're building off of it and becoming a much better player?
The latter for sure. Like you said, these guys just bring so much wisdom, and just obviously we're all NFL players for some reason or another. I mean, we've got some sort of talent, so just being able to build off that and build off the progress I've made in the last 3 years and have the wisdom of Bill has helped a lot, and we're just building on it. So
now that you've been through a couple of padded practices and kind of working through some things, how have you seen the offense as a whole kind of progress?
Good. We had some rust bang off a few days ago, but I think overall today was a really good day for the offense. I think we won that lockout period at the end. That's 2 padded practices in a row, so we just got to keep stacking days like that and keep building as an offense. It's not perfect right now, but I think we're heading in the right direction.
So that's Dylan Radins speaking after practice on Saturday, saying all the right things, and now he'll have the opportunity to go out there and claim this starting job, because there is no longer opposition ahead of him, and the other players behind him in Lachavious Simmons isn't necessarily going to push Dylan Radins for the starting spot. So it's between Brunskill and Radins. I would think Radins would be the option. We'll see how this ultimately comes to fruition. So now to Jared Gibson says, why did he retire? All that we're being told right now, and I've asked a couple of people, is personal reasons. Perhaps as more time passes, more information will become available. I don't know. I don't know that it's that it's health related or that it's family related. So I don't want to speak one way or the other. But all we're being told right now is that he just felt it was the right time for him to step away and focus on more important things. And that's okay. Once Brian Arakpo said this a long time ago at his retirement press conference, or at least it feels like it's been a long time ago since Arakpo retired. He was on one of the first Titans teams that I covered, obviously, and Rack always had good perspective on things. He said, as soon as you start to think about retirement, you're retired. That's what the NFL is. If you are not 100% in your mind committed to doing this damn thing again in another season, and those thoughts have already started to creep in, then you should retire at that point, because you're already halfway there. The mindset is as important as the physical abilities. And so I think that for this this example of it. Again, there may be other ancillary reasons why Sadiq Charles decided to retire that we're not privy to right now, and I don't want to speak out of turn. But if he was already thinking about retirement, then he was in essence already retired at that point. Ryan Field says, who's stepping up in Key's absence? Well, Key's not absent yet, so nobody is stepping up. Ryan, Arden Key continues to get first-team defensive reps. Weaver hasn't filled in for him. They haven't signed anybody yet to date other than Quandre Diggs to play safety. So nobody has stepped up in Key's absence because Key is not absent from practice, nor does he have to be. He can continue to practice through the offseason. He can play in the preseason games if he so chooses. And then once the regular season starts, once he's officially suspended, because what it's worth, not officially suspended right now. But I would expect that news to come out at some point in the near future as we get closer towards the regular season. A reminder that he is expected to be suspended 6 games, which will end up being 7 weeks because you have a week 5 bye. The Titans do, and the bye doesn't count. So that is unfortunate. James Barr says, how has Caleb Murphy looked? Caleb Murphy has not. Caleb Murphy is, if he ends up being on the practice squad because they need edge guys, that'll make the most sense. But that's, to date, he's not a starting caliber edge rusher. And we'll see if Weaver can be any better than he was in 2022 when Harold Landry went down for the rest of the season. So Caleb Murphy and Jalen Harrell, the other edge player, the 7th round pick out of Michigan this year. That is not, at least not yet in their respective careers. Doesn't mean that they can't turn into something in the NFL, but right now that is not going to be the solution that you have. They were already looking for other edge players before Arden Key got suspended, so now this will just up the ante. Chris Johnson, not that Chris Johnson, says, so is Willis going to be the preseason quarterback? No. I mean, Levis is going to play in the preseason. Mason Rudolph's going to play in the preseason. All 3 of them are going to play in the preseason. I would expect if you're going to Nissan Stadium on Saturday night, you're going to see the starters. How much you'll see the starters, I don't know, but perhaps we'll find out the answers to that tomorrow and on Thursday because we will be back out of practice, levels to speak, and we will see what Brian Callahan's decisions are at this point. All right, so from that to Gone Viral, got a Gone Viral video for you at the end of the show. For those of you who have been paying attention to not just the NFL, but also the state of college football, this Jim Harbaugh clip is going to make you laugh, and certainly it's making the rounds on the internet this week. We will get you to that here in just a second. The question, of course, is what's the best thing that you saw on the internet this week? Right after I remind you that the Primetime program is made possible by the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. Go to GaryAshton.com. Get your dream address without the stress. Get the intel edge you need to succeed at GaryAshton.com, the official real estate agent of the Nashville Predators. So, a lot of things going on with the Michigan Wolverines right now. The defending national champions, of course, they are under investigation for cheating. Those of you familiar with the Connor Stallions circumstance, the NCAA has also handed down some. I want to make sure that I have the details of the NCAA findings that were handed down with the NCAA notice of allegations that were handed down. Jim Harbaugh has been asked to the podium or has been asked questions about this at the podium because, of course, he won a natty and then he dips at it. He got the hell out of there because I'm sure he knew some of this shit was coming. And also the NFL continues to offer Jim Harbaugh jobs, and he took a good one this year with the Chargers. But when asked about the situation, the notice of allegations that the NCAA handed down today and potentially what may be a suspension of his successor in Sharon Moore, the current head coach of the Michigan Wolverines, Jim Harbaugh took a particular kind of stance.
Yeah, I do have a comment on that. Never lie, never cheat, never steal. I was raised with that lesson. I have raised my family on that lesson. I have preached that lesson to the teams that I've coached. No one's perfect. If you stumble, you apologize, and you make it right. Today, I do not apologize. I did not participate, was not aware, nor complicit in those said allegations. So for me, it's back to work and attacking with an enthusiasm unknown to mankind.
We joked about it on the radio show today that it had big Conor McGregor energy. I'd like to apologize to absolutely effing nobody, right? Like that's basically what Harbaugh got up there and said. And Michigan clearly cheated. Like Michigan clearly and obviously cheated. And how much Harbaugh knew or didn't know what's being alleged, I'm sure we'll find out more details in the coming weeks and months and potentially years. When Jim Harbaugh got up there and said, "I do not apologize for those things," or phrased it the way that he did, it was very Conor McGregor-esque. So I appreciate it. I appreciate his position, even though I know him clearly and obviously to have violated some NCAA rules in how they went about it, given the whole Connor Stallions mess. All right, that's going to do it for us tonight on the Primetime program. Thank you guys, as always, for hanging out. Reminder, we're back at training camp tomorrow and Thursday. Tavondre Sweat is the guest tomorrow. J.C. Latham will be the guest on Thursday. You'll hear from Brian Callahan and Will Levis as they get you ready for a game week at Nissan Stadium against the San Francisco 49ers. Terry Lynn says, are you going to ask Levis about the NCAA taking his wins at Kentucky? Well, I don't think they've officially have they vacated the wins officially yet? I need to read the details on the NCAA thing with Kentucky because honestly, I'd forgotten about it. It came out like last Friday. And, obviously we've had a million different things and a bunch of Titans practices that took place over the weekend since then. So, I definitely will ask Will Levis about it, but I want to make sure that I'm buttoned up on all the details. All right. See you guys tomorrow morning, 10 a.m., 104.5 The Zone. Make sure you tune in and hear all the great Titans coverage that we will be there to provide.